Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 1938 MG T8 Midget. Now this was part of the T-Series, which were a range of body-on-frame open two-seater sports cars produced from 1936 to 1955. The series included the TB, TC, TD and TF Midget models, with the last model, the TF, being replaced by the MGA, which is also on this game. But this TA was produced from 1936 to 1939, with around 3,000 being made, each of which cost £222 to buy, which is nearly around £15,000 in 2017 money. And yeah, it was even somewhat successful in racing, as Alan Tomlinson, an Australian racing car driver, won the 1939 Australian Grand Prix. So yeah, really glad this is on the game. It just, expands the British car list on this game even more. Also gives us an even more varied MG car list, because now we have the MGA, the MGB, and obviously the rally car from in the form of the Metro 6R4. So yeah, MG has some of the widest ranging vehicles on this game now, and yeah, this is a pretty neat little sports car. It's far from my favourite classic car that we've had on this series, for reasons I'll get into when we get out onto the open road. But in terms of looks, it looks pretty decent. Yes, it looks like pretty much every other car from the late 30s, but yeah, they're all worse looking vehicles from that time. And yeah, pretty much open interior. There was very little weather protection with these vehicles, as you can see. The hood did come up, but yeah, you didn't have any windows or anything like that, so protection was very limited, and interior luxury is also quite limited. As you can see, you've only really got dials there and maybe a cigarette lighter or something, but nothing else really in there. But yeah, the engine is a fairly impressive little thing. It's far from the most powerful, but at 1.3 litres and being an inline 4 engine, it produces 50 horsepower and 67 pounds-feet of torque. Now I know 50 horsepower and 67 pounds-feet of torque doesn't sound that much, and it isn't in comparison to today cars, but if you compare it to other 30s cars like the Ford Deluxe 5-window coupe, which came out 6 years before this, and it had a 3.6 litre flathead V8 that produced 65 horsepower. So yeah, granted this produced nowhere near the amount of torque as that Ford, which had 130 pounds-feet of torque, but to be only 15 horsepower less than a 3.6 litre V8 when you've only got a 1.3 litre inline 4, so it's got twice the cylinders and more than twice the cubic capacity, is really rather good, quite frankly. And this has an advantage over the Ford. Even though it's nowhere near as good in terms of acceleration, it is a lot lighter at 1,822 pounds, which is about 500 pounds less than the Ford. Granted, the Ford can carry more people in it, and is obviously a more practical vehicle in general, and certainly would keep you protected out of the rain and cold. But as far as little sports cars go from the time, it's a fairly decent amount of power and torque from such a small engine, especially when, technology back in those days was still at the very early stages of motoring. So yeah, I'm fairly impressed by that horsepower and torque rating, quite frankly. But nonetheless, let's get this out onto the open road and see what it can do. So yeah, thanks to the fact that it is quite lightweight, that 50 horsepower is able to be put to the best use it can, as it has a 0 to 60 time of 23.1 seconds, which is fairly decent, and it is quite sprightly up until about 50 mile an hour in general. So yeah, performance wise this could be a lot worse, but it does only have a top speed of 77, so yeah, can't get anywhere near 100 mile an hour. But considering there were no speed limits at the time that this car was released, it's 77 mile an hour is really not too shabby whatsoever. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd struggle to find a car even faster than this for the money that it was available at the time. So yeah, in the context of when it was released, it's a perfectly reasonable car in terms of acceleration and top speed, and that's something else that has to be really looked at in terms of handling as well, because the handling is not all that great, which isn't helped by the fact that it's only got drum brakes all the way around, again because the technology was really rather medieval pretty much at that time. So yeah, hydraulic drum brakes all the way around mean that this car does stop, but yeah, you better be prepared for stopping a long time before you actually need to come to a halt, otherwise you might well have an accident. But yeah, handling wise, the suspension is quite bouncy. I don't know if you've seen any old black and white film footage of cars racing around. that look like this, but yeah, this pretty much bounces around like those kind of old film footage. So yeah, if you get into any kind of hard driving situation, it will start to bounce around a fair bit. I have had instances where I've done this kind of thing where I've, yeah, look, see it wobbles around a bit when you kind of do that. It's quite a wobbly thing, and I have had times when I've done that and it's just bounced about a bit. So yeah, it's quite a bit of a comedy car, to be honest, but at the end of the day, it's added a fair bit of variety to this game, and I do like the fact that it has done that, because yeah, this is easily one of the oldest cars from Britain that we've had on this game. Obviously it's not quite as old as the two Bentleys from 1931, but as far as a more you know, production volume car, this is easily the oldest, because yeah, those Bentleys, even between both of them, didn't sell, I don't think, any more than 500 or so, whereas you know, this had more than 3,000. So yeah, it's easily the biggest volume car. That's also the oldest from Britain that we've had, so I'm fine with that. Hopefully it does mean that we get more British classics like this. Hopefully some more that are a little bit more modern, but still just as a, you know, classic in terms of feeling, driving and style. Because even though, like I said, this isn't my favourite classic car that we've had on this series or on this car pass, it's still a reasonably good car, and yeah, I'm sure it would be a real hoot to drive around if you gave it a little bit of extra power, but really didn't upgrade any of the handling parts, because yeah, the suspension on this vehicle, even with this amount of power, as you can see, is really quite wobbly and really rather basic. I'm not sure what it has underneath, but I imagine it's only leaf springs or something like that, because yeah, it does love a bounce, and yeah, you can really see that when you go off-road, like now. It's a bit, you know, up and down. So yeah, I imagine plenty of people won't like this car because of how old and how slow it is, but I'm fine with it, even if it isn't a favourite. And at the end of the day, it is a car that we've never had before, and yeah, is a little bit unique in that regard, because yeah, we don't have anything like this on the game. Nothing that has this kind of small engine and is British or from MG or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know where they really dug this kind of car up from, or why they chose this car, but I'm fine with it. There are far worse vehicles that have been on this car pass, far more less unique vehicles that have been on this car pass, and yeah, like I said, hope it indicates what kind of cars we'll get in the future, because more of this is fine by me. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.